one is left only with waking state. If one has workable time, that is only the waking state he has. Yeah. Waking state is full of mind. One is full of mind. One is mind. Not alone the individual is the mind. The whole universe is the mind. How does perception happen in one? See, if I am seeing a sight, where does it happen? Does it happen in one mind? This is what Buddhism says. Buddhism says there is only one mind. That is one Maya. They don't separate avidya and Maya as two veiling powers. Individual is veiled by avidya. And the cosmos inherently comes up with the veil called Maya. இல்லையா? இங்கே மைண்ட் இருக்கிறதுனால தான் பார்க்குறேன் நான். எதிர்க்க இருக்கிற காட்சி எனக்கு தெரியறது எனக்குள்ளேந்தும் மைண்டு தான் இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ் மூலமா வெளியில இன்ஸ்டன்டேனியஸா கிரியேட் பண்றது. இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ் மூலமா மைண்டு கிரியேட் பண்ணது தான் இந்த பிரபஞ்சம் பிளஸ் நானும். இது புரியுதா? எந்த சென்சேஷனா இருக்கட்டும், எந்த புலன் உணர்வா இருக்கட்டும், காது கேட்டலா இருக்கட்டும், கண் பார்த்தலா இருக்கட்டும், நாக்கு சுவைத்தலா இருக்கட்டும், இதெல்லாம் வெளியில இருக்கிற ஆகாரங்களை பத்தியது, காட்சிகளை பத்தியது, ஒலிகளை பத்தியது. உள்ளுக்கும் வெளியில இருக்கிற பிரபஞ்சத்துக்கும் பேஸ் மேட்ரிக்ஸே உணர்வு தான், கான்சியஸ்னஸ் தான். கான்சியஸ்னஸ் தான் ஒரே பேஸ். நமக்குள்ளேயும் அந்த அறிவு பொருள் தான் ஸ்பிரிச்சுட்டே இருக்கு உள்ள. மனம்ன்றது ஒரு நாம்ன்ற அமைப்பினுடைய ரிஃப்ளெக்ஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் சுமந்துன்னு இருக்கிற ஒரு பிரதிபலிக்கிற கண்ணாடி. அதுக்குள்ள அந்த கண்ணாடியில மனக்கண்ணாடியில எல்லாம் பிரதிபலிச்சுட்டு இருக்கு. அந்த மனத்து மூலமா தான் நம்ம வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கோம். அந்த மனத்து வெளியில இருக்கிற உலகம் கூட நம்ம மனத்துல தான் இருக்கு. நம்ம மனத்துக்குள்ள இருக்கிற பிரதிபலிப்பை பார்க்கறது தான் வெளியில பார்க்கறது. ஸ்டெப் பை ஸ்டெப்பா நான் சொல்றது புரியுறதா? பேஸ் அடிப்படை மேட்ரிக்ஸ், அதிஷ்டான உண்மை, பேருணர்வு, அறிவுணர்வு. அறிவு உணர்வுன்றது ஒரு ஃபார்ம்லெஸ், நேம்லெஸ், இன்டான்ஜிபிள், அன்அப்ரஹெண்டபிள். எதுவுமே அதை மனித மனத்தால எதுவுமே டச் கூட பண்ண முடியாது. மனித மனம்னு சொல்றதே தானே தன்னை குறுக்கிண்டு அந்த உடம்பா நினைச்சுட்டு இருக்கிற நினைப்பு பேர் தான் மனித மனம். அது குறுக்கல. நீங்க நான் சொல்லும் போது குறுகிக்கிறீங்க. எனக்கு இது கிடைச்சாகணும் அப்படின்னும் போது குறுக்கிக்கிறீங்க. என்னைன்னும் போது குறுக்கிக்கிறீங்க. உங்களுடைய ஃபர்ஸ்ட் பர்சன் பர்சனல் ப்ரோனவுன் எல்லா மூலமாகவும் நீங்க குறுக்கிண்டே இருக்கீங்க. ஐ, மீ, வித் மீ, பை மீ, ஆஃப் மீ, ஆன் மீ, இன் மீ, மைன், மை, எல்லாமுமே பர்சனல் அட்ஜெக்டிவ்ஸ், பர்சனல் ப்ரோனவுன். இது ரெண்டுமே வரும்பொழுதெல்லாம் என்ன ஆகுது? இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ் அகண்டமா இருந்தது குறுகிடுறது. குறுக்கிற மீடியம் மனத்துல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் உங்களை யூ திங்க் யுவர் செல்ஃப் டு பி தட் ஸ்பேஸ் ஆஃப் யுவர் ஃபார்ம். Wherever your form is, you take that to be you. That is the first fictional conception that takes place in the localized mind. Mind comes into being by identifying with the body and thinking as I want this, I don't want this, I am respected, I am disrespected, I can, I cannot, I am good, I am not good. These are all making that personal center a constricted one. Locational entity. It makes that being as a locational entity. This should be first of all clearly cognized by the individual, realized by the individual. This is not a realization of a moment. This should constantly be there in one's awareness. That I am not this locational mind with 5 senses and a mind separately made to think on its own about that location, react from that location, live through that location. So this should be understood thoroughly. The matrix is in no way doing all these things, but the matrix nature itself is intelligence. What is the basic difference between the intelligence and the mind? Mind is a disturbed intelligence. Reflected disturbed intelligence. Disturbed. Agitative. That is why we categorize 3 sorts of, we categorize the mind under 3 gunas. Sattva guna, Rajasa guna and Tamasa guna. Sattva guna being clarity and light. One is very clear about one's origins. Not one's origins, the origin of everything. That is clarity. And what is Rajasa guna? Nothing but agitation, oscillation, modification, moment to moment modification. One is constantly becoming localized. Only is constantly becoming localized as that name and form. It doesn't mean one remembers, one calls one by his own name constantly. The very thinking process is nothing but the identification with a separate form. The moment one says I, the whole of his past with all its registration is saying that I or I am or me or with me or by me. So throughout the waking state, one has to deeply look at the functioning of this intellect in one constantly without any gap. This looking is called investigation of reality. Because reality is not elsewhere at all. We should not be carried away by the words, the names. Reality, a word, is not the reality. One has a lot of homework to be done, to be completed. One is not free enough here. The individual alone has to take this on himself. This is a fundamental quest that has to go on in one throughout the waking state. Waking state becomes an excuse for living. That is what it means by the statement, self-realization alone is the sole purpose of a human birth. You cannot keep it aside even for a second. If you want to ask question, please go ahead.
So you spoke about doing the homework. In other words, being one with the intelligence. But when we are dealing with our day-to-day lives in our waking state, we tend to lose ourselves in what we do with this lower mind. And whenever one understands that he is lost in the lower mind, one realizes that it is that one intelligence that drives and not this lower mind. One is able to continue with his homework. So as a spiritual seeker, as an earnest spiritual seeker, how to be focused on the homework that one has to do?
You have replied this question also. You said the moment you come to be aware that you are lost in the objective thinking, you have lost yourself in the objective flow by way of thinking. The moment you become aware, that point of becoming aware is very important, crucial moment. See, as the practice goes deeper and deeper, one is very swift in returning to in realizing the fact that there is only one. There is only one intelligence. This doesn't take even a moment's time. Is in a kshana, in just a moment, even while performing, even while doing an objective activity, losing oneself in an objective thinking flow, one can be aware the matrix of this whole thinking process is happening out of that. Because what is the practice? As one delves deep and deep within oneself, the characteristic nature of intelligence itself is opening to his mind also. That is what is happening. His mind is at one moment becomes multidimensionally living. Anchored within, we can take the example of a playing child, a child which is playing, a boy of 3 years, where the ego has not developed with its own identifications and adamancy and all these things. You can take that boy, his play. How does he play? How a girl of 2.5 years plays, runs here and there. Where is the center in them? All the more when children play, what happens? They don't drain energy at all. Physically also they are not depleted in energy. Their playfulness is full, total. Within, there are no centers in them. It never identifies the boy child or the girl child. It never identifies with its name or form. Only playfulness expresses through their play. And there is no center at all. Whole day it's going on playing continuously. There is no depletion of any physical energy, since there is no mental center, psychological center. There is nothing complexically taking place in them also. So at the end of the play, even when they fall asleep, it is a total sleep. No influences in the mind is working there in them. It is total, complete, peaceful. Even while playing, acting, without a center, psychological center, the play itself is total. Think of the insects, animals. What is animality? More of physical energy. When there is no psychological center, the body acts totally, lives totally. It is only one has to understand this truth, this fact. This fact, as one listens to this, he should immediately apprehend it and practice it. Think of it in all its totality. Imbibe it and start living with it. That is what is actually practice of awareness. What is practice of awareness? When you are attending when you are attending something in the waking state, you are both within and simultaneously without also. Can one not live parallelly within and without? Is it possible or not? Tell me. Suppose I am just assume you are a housewife, homemaker. You are doing a small activity called boiling the milk. Can you not do this simultaneously, being within and without? Empty within, only senses attending to the work of boiling the milk. Can one not do this? How will he or she lose? Is there any thinking process involved in this? All complications arise only because of one is identifying with the flow. One is allowing himself taking involved or taking too much interest in the flow of thinking or acting, becoming a doer constantly. That is how the habits have got developed in every one of us. But again, one has to take seriously this practice and look at the habits also. Why should one become a personality or a role even while thinking or doing an activity? The moment the same homemaker becomes anxious in thinking, the child is crying, it needs the milk, I have to boil it fast. These are all thoughts only. However, furiously she thinks, the milk will consume its own time of getting boiled. She cannot hasten it. She cannot hasten the process. Why has it now become anxious activity? Anxious. Why has she lost herself in thinking? Because she got attached with the process called the child is crying. It should be quenched. It should be given the milk. It should be fed with the milk. So I should do something. The doer has assumed. A mother has come in the home. A mother has come in the role of the mother has come into the homemaker, and it becomes anxious. If your thinking is covered by any of your role, then you lose yourself in thinking. You become anxious or you become depressed. All the moods also will start influencing you. That is why we will have to be so sensitive in looking at this inner working, inner functioning of the mind constantly throughout the waking state. Realization is not lying elsewhere outside of one's psyche, one's mind. The whole domain is one's own mind. There is no category called a woman or a man here. And there are no roles at all. We are getting into the functioning of the mind. We are becoming aware. Who? The moment I say we are becoming aware, I don't mean by saying that we, some group of people are, I don't project that. The very awareness is looking at that. When one is looking, the way one's mind is working, it is that awareness is looking at that. That awareness is common. It is not that individual's awareness. Intelligence is common. Chit is common. Chit is one. Awareness is one. Without any numbers. These are all the basic truths with which one should approach this investigation throughout his waking state. You can bring this to any type of activity. Even in psychological activities, you can simultaneously you can have that inner awareness on the doer. Suppose you are reading a book. The very reader is not that name and form, basically. Because intelligence alone does all these activities. The very reader, the so-called human being, the person who reads that book also he is in intelligence, he is in awareness, which has no form or name or location. The moment you take yourself to be that physical form, becoming the location, all other locations also parallelly arise. Then you enter into traffic jam. The mind becomes full of traffic. Whether one is acting on a particular objective project or practicing or culturing awareness, both are same activities only. It should sink to that level. You cannot isolate, fragment the waking state, day-to-day routine from the spiritual practice. Because spirit is only one, intelligence is only one. Though it appears as a grand universe at a given moment, doer of any activity is also included in it. It is the intelligence does that activity through that individual. Where is the question of a conflict that can arise? The conflict can only enter by way of assuming a particular personality or a role that brings in all difficulties to that individual. He loses track. That is why they use pratyabhijna. Pratyabhijna in Sanskrit, its meaning is a constant remembrance. Constant remembrance about your source, about everyone's source, about everything's source. What is that source? Source is only one, pure intelligence. Without a separate name, without a separate form. Form means location, name means any psychological activity. Our names, whatever the names that are given to us, are nothing but simply utilitarian and identification marks. Nothing else other than this. One never calls one constantly by his name. Only thinking process is going on in every one of us. At least try to sectionalize. You take in piecemeal one activity. You start doing that activity without any split in you. That is neither in nor out. Being empty, try to do that activity. Being empty within, psychologically empty within, without any role that is performing that act, or a name or a form, don't call. If you closely watch the thinking process, how does this happen? This happens successively while doing an activity. Immediately the commentator also arises in between. Commentators, the modifiers, the regulators, the controllers, the thinkers, the doers. Do you see this fact? In an activity, the moment you become inattentive, what happens? A commentator will jump from the flow of thoughts and start commenting about your own activity. This has come out of habit. Why can't you do a simple act of boiling the milk, say for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, without a commentator, without any sort of role barging in between? To exist, should you think at all? To exist, to be, just be. Do you need any remembrance of any modification is needed? The labeling part confuses everyone. The branding, labeling of your own activities, your own process, way of thinking, your own way of concluding, your own way of deciding, your own way of some advancement, the projection you project about your own psychological self in relation to others or the society. Constantly are these modifiers, regulators, controllers, doers, rejectors, planners, happen in us. See, for Samadhi, Patanjali Maharishi has given a beautiful definition. Tadeva Arthamatra Nirbhasam. Arthamatra Nirbhasam. Artha means the object. In the act of boiling milk, as if in that kitchen, no one is looking at the milk, the homemaker should attend that process. Psychologically empty, psychologically none is existing in that homemaker, attending that activity. Now what is going on in that room? A breathing mechanism called a human being is breathing. Only attention is getting expressed through that housewife or homemaker, and the act of milk getting boiled is going on. What else is there? You reduce everything to the 0 point. What's happening there? What is this called? Arthamatra Nirbhasam. This is what he explains in by the definition of Samadhi. Tat eva Arthamatra Nirbhasam Swarupam Sunyam iva Samadhi. The homemaker is empty within herself. She never allows a commentator to arise in her. Why it is taking so much time? Some sort of agitation, some sort of restlessness. If the restlessness enters one, what happens? A lot of commentators also simultaneously arise in one. Whether the gas stove is burning properly, whether it is in same position or other position, whether the one or the other doubts will start creeping in. Who are all these entities? The same thought plus only. They have assumed several roles now. They have become critics of your own activities. They have become commentators about how to improve it. Oh, you are becoming very slow. It is commenting about the act being very slow, or it should be hastened, modify it. This is how personalities enter, commentators enter, critics enter, modifiers enter, planners enter. These are all the roles. Not only motherhood and mother is boiling the milk for her kid. Not this alone. These are also roles. Commentator is a role. Why should a commentator has come in now? This is what he beautifully explains. What is Samadhi? Samadhi can be practiced even in work, but it should be properly, clearly understood, realized. The meaning of it should be realized. What he says, the boiling of milk is taking place, that alone has filled her consciousness. She and the act of boiling the milk that is going on at that moment, both are one, and the entity, the onlooker, the homemaker has disappeared. Swarupam Sunyam iva Samadhi. When you are going for a walk, say for half an hour or 1 hour or 2 hours, what is the necessity of roles, commentators, critics, psychologically someone who is constantly modifying within every one of us should enter there, should be there. What is the necessity of them? Why don't you just be available to your physical senses and the gross physical body and the nature surrounding you or the environment surrounding you, and do the walking alone, empty within, one in the cosmos. Now walking has become the artha, that is the object. Not even the walker. Walking has become the artha. Artha means object. Tatyeva artha matra nirbhasam. Nirbhasam means that alone is reflecting in the consciousness at that moment. Just like in the kitchen, how the boiling of the milk alone is happening there, no individual is even looking at it, no commentators are allowed. The eyes which watch the milk getting boiled are simply attentive. Physically that person is available, psychologically no one is there inside, in that physical human being. This is what is Samadhi. If sustained attention on an act is practiced, only that act alone is there, that acting alone is there. This is what is Samadhi. When the walker and the walking coexist together, then it is called dhyana, meditation. There the walker is there, the act of walking is there. At times he is one with walking, at times he becomes a psychological center looking at his own walking. If these two things are there, this is called meditation, dhyana. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata. Then pratyaya means the content of consciousness when it is two. When the content of consciousness is only between two things, that is the onlooker and the onlooked object or onlooked act, the observed act, the action and the actor, if they coexist, this is dhyana. When the observer is lost, only observation prevails, then it is Samadhi. This is Samadhi. Tatra pratyaya ekatanada iti dhyanam. Pratyaya means the content of your mind, your attention. When you are walking or even boiling milk, only you as the mother actually boiling the milk for your child. You are there, nothing else is there, no other thoughts are there in you, and the milk getting boiled, that act is going on the stove. You are at some moments looking at, you lose yourself in the boiling of the milk, and sometimes you return back to the mother who is doing this job. Only these two contents, when they prevail, it becomes dhyana. Even at a particular moment during dhyana, samadhi also happens. What is that? When you are not there, only boiling milk is there. Only that action is going on, that is samadhi. Samadhi is not a different happening apart from dhyana. Samadhi, dhyana itself slowly getting modified into samadhi. Dhyana itself is becoming samadhi. Again, samadhi, when it is disturbed, it becomes like dhyana. When it becomes with two contents, it turns out to be dhyana. These are all in relation to the activities through our physical body. When the whole gaze and whole dhyana turns to be within your own subtle body function, say when you start looking about your own thoughts, thought and the onlooker of the thought, they cannot exist together, but you become thought, and at moments there is as if there is none within you, it becomes samadhi. These three aspects, the dharana, dhyana, samadhi, these three aspects, when they are performed on like an investigation within one, then this is called vichara. And this vichara should never be stopped at any moment of waking state. Dharana is percolating into dhyana, dhyana is percolating into samadhi, and there are no cut-off times. Anything can become anything at any moment throughout this whole process when one does this with eyes closed, sitting eyes closed. There are no cut-off lines. Exactly after the second minute, dharana becomes dhyana. Exactly after the fifth minute, dhyana enters into samadhi. There are no cut-off lines. This is the whatever the efficiency or the maturity the mind has gathered over doing this, sanely, not mechanically. See, whatever we speak here now is from the point of view of intelligence. These are all not mechanical things. These are all not some technical jobs. This is the very being which is throbbing throughout the cosmos. Only one being is throbbing. That is why they say heart is only one, consciousness is only one, intelligence is only one. What you are actually doing or dealing with now is the one consciousness. That is why this gains immense significance. Immense significance. Very high importance is given to this because this is investigating one's own reality, truth, the source. This cannot happen just like that by only listening to this satsanga alone about what is meditation and what is vichara and what is samadhi, what is dhyana. we are probing into all of these things very finely. This cannot happen suddenly to some individual only by listening only this piecemeal satsanga alone. Those who have been doing this can receive this, they can understand this. For others it will be like only full of words or something like that. They will put it aside immediately. The importance will not be given. But for seekers, they will know the importance of this. Because they are only waiting for these moves, the finest moves. Ultimately, what happens to one in this practice, he realizes that only one consciousness prevails. See, the homemaker who is attending only to the boiling of the milk in the kitchen, and a tiger which is chasing its prey, it is chasing the deer that is being hunted. Both both types of attentions are same.
Listening to this satsang.
Listening to this satsang. Yes. You are filled with that truth, no? Right in front of you, you are looking at that inner working in you. That is common to the whole humanity, and because there is only one consciousness, one intelligence. That is why it is identical. It is identical.
The moment is identical.
Each moment is identical.
Each moment is
identical. What is the definition Patanjali has given for dharana? Desha bandha chittasya dharana. That is the initial practice. The very first step of bringing in all activities of the waking state into the domain of dharana. Dharana means what? You were until now dissipated, distracted. The mind is distracted. Mind can be distracted by what? Several interests, right? People have several interests. Each interest has different distractions. If one is multiply driven by several desires, one is totally distracted. So that kind of a mind, as an initial practice, that has to be brought into focus, at least to be aware that one is multiply interested in several issues. One has divested himself on several issues, on several objective thinking patterns. This should be made aware to one through this dharana practice. So what does dharana practice do to one? Desha bandha chittasya dharana. One is bringing one's attention, that is, from the dissipated flow, one takes a reference point and brings his mind into focus. Only that reference point. By and by, see, you cannot make the mind calm or bring it under control by tyranny. It will rebel you. It will become rebellious. Tyranny, torturing. By punishing it, controlling it, physically doing something. One cannot succeed in that way at all. Instead of the mind multiply distracted, bring it under one focus within its own self, within its own domain, amidst so many projects. Only one is attended, only one is to be attended at that particular point in time. That practice is given through the practice of dharana. You are binding the mind to one particular kind of activity. Dharana brings that training. That is why it should be a constant endeavor for every one of us truth is one. Mind has acquired through millennia lot of differences and lot of interests. In one moment it has varied interests to keep it distracted. Result is nothing but frustration. What is the basic difference? Intelligence is peaceful. It is collected. Always blissful. Not only peaceful, it is blissful. It is serene, tranquil. Even out of dharana practice, if one is gaining the ability to focus constantly for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, only on certain issues, one objective act. Out of that focusing, one is relaxed. Focusing of mind brings in lot of relaxation. By and by, when dharana is stabilized, the focusing is stabilized between 2 or 3 issues and one onlooker or one attender of those issues, what happens? The next stage evolves. The next stage is nothing but dhyana. Now the content becomes only 2, that is the onlooker, the observer and the observed act. This becomes dhyana. See, it is like an alchemical process, all these things happen to one. This is the inner alchemy which is happening to one. And this is the only way. When one is established in this science, how can one ever will get distracted? Shall we end with this?
No.
Shall we stop with this?